It is Tuesday night in East Lansing, Michigan. My name is Jim Comparoni, publisher, SpartanMag.com, SpartanMag.com. Come on in, gather around. We're going to talk Michigan State sports for the next hour and a half, something like that. Usually it goes 2 hours if we get carried away. Maybe that'll happen again tonight. I don't know, but it's always good to check in with the Michigan State fans across the country, Spartan Maggers worldwide. And those of you that are not yet Spartan Maggers, go on over to SpartanMag.com. Try SpartanMag.com. 30 days for free right now. Check it out. We think that you'll like it. Michigan State sports, Michigan State basketball, going to try to bounce back Thursday night against the Iowa Hawkeyes. Michigan State 8-4, 2-4 in the Big Ten, if my math is right, taking on Iowa Hawkeyes, ranked in the top 5. Iowa, that game will be tipping off at 9:07 p.m. Carver Hawkeye Arena. Michigan State will be trying to knock off the Iowa Hawkeyes. Iowa 11-2, 5-1 in the Big Ten. Iowa's won 4 straight since losing to Minnesota in overtime about 2 weeks ago. Over the weekend, Iowa beat Minnesota 86-71. They got revenge on the Gophers, did their usual deal. I think they were 9 out of 14 from three-point range, were the Hawkeyes, 9 out of 14 from three-point range. They're good. It's going to be hard for Michigan State with all the problems Michigan State has had on offense to keep up with that Iowa team. And we got a lot of questions tonight pertaining to Michigan State basketball, a little bit Michigan State football, maybe a little Michigan State football recruiting, looking ahead to the 2022 recruiting class a little bit. This past weekend, I went over to Orchard Lake not Orchard Lake St. Mary's, Oak Park, to watch Oak Park play against Livonia Churchill, Division II regional finals. Had a video report from that at SpartanMag.com late Saturday night. I've got some more content from my trip to Livonia. We'll be trotting that out before the weekend, planning on that one. Got a little bit more from Davion Prim and Rayshawn Benny. Going to have that out soon. Hope everybody's doing great. Hope everybody is off to a good start in the new year, taking care of each other, and being happy and healthy. Happy and healthy. You know, news today, Max Rosenthal, got to be happy for him. Fullback, walk-on out of Winnetka, Illinois, New Trier Township High School. Did not play for Michigan State this year. Never really got a clear indication what was going on there, if there were injuries or what, but he announced via Twitter earlier today that he is transferring to the University of Illinois, going back to his home state, so good for him. Fullback at 262. Michigan State didn't really make much use of the fullback position with the new coaches. I thought there was a chance that he might be utilized as an H-back, especially considering Michigan State's weaknesses at the tight end H-back position. Never got on the field, not sure why. Transfers to Illinois. Brett Bielema, the new coach at Illinois, they'll make good use of Rosenthal as a fullback. He's graduated. I think Rosenthal graduated. He was, I think, 2-time academic All-Big Ten advertising management major. Goes to Illinois as a graduate. Good luck to him. You know, last year, 2019, not this past season, but the season before that, played a lot of fullback, had 2 receptions, including a touchdown reception at Michigan. So Rosenthal left somewhat of a mark on the program. If D'Antonio had stuck around with the old offense, probably would have had a productive final year at Michigan State this year in some regards. But he's gone. We'll wish him the best. Let's go to the mailbag. We've got some questions here in the mailbag. Also, feel free to give us a call. If you want to call in and get involved here, we certainly welcome that as well. Good to see people filing in right now. Michigan State fans, come on in. We'll talk some Michigan State sports. Enjoy yourselves. Be good people. And tell us what refreshments you're enjoying tonight. I know it's a Tuesday night, but what was Tuesday night in East Lansing back in the old days? 10-cent drafts at Bazaar, something like that? Or was it dollar pitchers at Rick's on Tuesday nights? 99-cent pitchers? Go there and watch Water for the Pool or Jay Walker and the Pedestrians? Some of those guys? I don't know. Question number 1. Mike from Macomb, Michigan. We'll get to his question in a minute. Meantime, give us a thumbs up. That always helps. Also, subscribe to the channel here. If you have not subscribed earlier, we would love to make you a subscriber. Love to have you as a subscriber. Also, don't forget to check out SpartanMag.com. These questions were posted over at the Underground Bunker message board, which is the daily narrative on Michigan State sports. It is the church of what's happening now with Spartan Sports. I invited SpartanMag.com subscribers to post some questions, and we will field them here tonight. And as we talk tonight about these questions, feel free to give your thoughts in the chat area, whether you agree, disagree, or whatever. Also, add your questions over there. We will get to those questions in the chat area later, or call in. Anyway, Mike from Macomb, Michigan he asks, now that Jim Harbaugh will be back at Michigan, do you think Michigan State will be able to out-recruit Michigan for the in-state class of 2022? Who are some of the key recruits for 2022 that could become a Michigan State versus Michigan battle? Thanks, Jim. Keep up the good work. Other questions include, how much will Penn State continue to recruit well in the state of Michigan? Penn State's recruited well in Michigan, and I just got distracted by something. Michigan's beating Wisconsin by 20 right now. Wow. And as far as Penn State, I'd say they recruited better in the state of Michigan than probably anybody this past year. Can Penn State continue that? Can Michigan and Michigan State do anything to stave off Penn State? That some of that work has to play into it as well. Hey, I agree. Harbaugh, not in a position of strength there. There will be programs recruiting against him, negative recruiting against him. I don't know if Michigan State will or not. Probably so. Maybe they should. I'm not sure. He's running into some of that out east, from what I understand. A difficult situation for Harbaugh with a lesser contract. Apparently no offers from the National Football League. So he signs a contract that he was not happy about. Low buyout, which means they can get rid of him after next season. Or they'll let him walk if someone wants to take him. I would imagine this will be the most difficult time Harbaugh has to recruit that he's had since he's been at Michigan because of that. But also, the team quit on him this year. It seemed pretty clear. I don't know how many of those players will really go to bat for him on the recruiting trail. Usually, your players are your best recruiters in a lot of ways. I'm not sure what kind of help he's going to get from his players right now. Maybe they'll do well. I'm not sure, but that's a challenge. So the door's open for Michigan State to do some things, right? Michigan State beat Michigan on the football field this fall. Mel Tucker, we assume, will be able to get out on the recruiting trail for some face-to-face contact this year, as will all coaches. We're hoping, got our fingers crossed, right? So we get out and get back to a little more normalcy. Hoping for recruits to be able to visit spring practices all over the country. Hoping for recruits to be able to visit camps in the summertime, take official visits in early summer, all those things. And Mel Tucker, for the first time, will be able to recruit face-to-face on campus. He did for about a week last spring before the shutdown happened. So if all those things happen, and Mel Tucker's able to get out and press the flesh and get to meet people face-to-face, he's an impressive guy. He's got a presence about him. If he's recruiting out there for Michigan State with a victory over Michigan in the rearview mirror from the fall, I know the season didn't go great, where they finished 2-5 or something, but they beat Michigan. And for in-state recruiting, that'll help. Meanwhile, Michigan is hurting. I would have to think Michigan State's got a shot. And I'll be repeating that throughout the spring and summer. It's going to be interesting to watch. I talked to Corey Robinson about this a little bit earlier. Corey Robinson is the recruiting anchor for SpartanMag.com. I asked him that question, Mike from Macomb. I said, which players are going to come down to, possible Michigan versus Michigan State recruiting battle. And, no surprise, he mentioned Dylan Tatum. He mentioned some other names. I'll go over those names here in a moment. But Dylan Tatum, an athlete from West Bloomfield, 5'11", 185, four-star guy, ranked number 6 in the state. I watched West Bloomfield's playoff game on Saturday against Romeo. I watched a replay of it, the full game. And Donovan Edwards, the running back from West Bloomfield, during the summer, I had questions about him, about his ranking. I don't have any questions anymore. I think he's outstanding. He has real good senior film, and he's taking his game up a notch. He's going to Michigan. Good tailback, deserves the 4-star rating, deserves to be a top 75 national guy. I wasn't so sure about that on junior film, but Donovan Edwards really has live legs, acceleration, and some moves to go with that acceleration, and some toughness too. Donovan Edwards looked really good against Romeo on Saturday. And Dylan Tatum had some moments also. Played safety, Dylan Tatum, he plays safety, plays halfback, plays some wing back, plays a little wildcat quarterback, Dylan Tatum does. And at safety, there was one play in which he turned and tried to chase down and did chase down Romeo's fastest player. I think it was their quarterback. Romeo's got one or two guys that can really run. And he chased him down, got him out of bounds after a long gain. It wasn't on him, but saw him turn and saw some of that speed. Earlier in the season, saw some of that quickness and speed with Dylan Tatum. Good talent, no question about it. Interesting when you have Tatum running the wildcat, faking a handoff to Donovan Edwards. That's a lot to handle. And I think West Bloomfield this weekend, I think they're playing Belleville, right? State semifinals. Is that who they match up with? Belleville, comfortable victory over Detroit Cass Tech. Amazing on January 12th that we're talking about Michigan high school football playoffs. I saw Don Strait. Oh, I don't have my bell nearby, but I've got this. Don Strait, thank you very much for the personal sponsorship. And I know Don Strait, I know he's a DeWitt Panthers fan. DeWitt's still alive. I think they're playing Muskegon High School this weekend. That'll be a tough one, but DeWitt has been great this year. DeWitt had a blowout victory over, among other people, they had a blowout victory over Warren De La Salle earlier in the year, and De La Salle will be Oak Park's opponent this weekend in the semifinals. Oak Park against De La Salle. Correct me if I'm wrong if I've got any of that incorrect, going off the top of my head. Anyway, West Bloomfield, West Bloomfield's got a nice quarterback, and then they'll have Donovan Edwards doing some wildcat, and he will throw it once or twice too, and Tatum playing some quarterback. On one drive, you might see three different people play quarterback. West Bloomfield, interesting team to watch. Tatum, with Edwards and some other talent there, he only gets maybe 2-3 carries a game, 3 or 4 from what I've seen. Next year, he'll be the feature guy. So Michigan State versus Michigan could be the matchup for Tatum. I've heard some insiders say that he could be looking to go out of state. So it's going to be interesting to watch what happens with Dylan Tatum. Michigan State made some inroads with him early. He was a guy that got on campus and got to meet Mel Tucker face-to-face before the shutdown. So Michigan State will try to build on that foundation and keep charging after number 6 player in the state. Other ones, Tayshawn Trent, number 5 player in the state, wide receiver from East Point. Corey Robinson, he's calling it right now with Michigan State with a little bit of a lead. He's not calling it a done deal, but he sees it with Michigan State having a little bit of a lead for Tayshawn Trent, 6'4", wide receiver from East Point. Also, Terrell Henry, wide receiver from Roseville, 6 feet. A lot of wide receiver type athletes in this year's class. Antonio Gates Jr., athlete from Dearborn and Fordson, 6'1", 175. Michigan State will be in with him. Michigan also possibly. Jaden Mangum, Michigan State will be in there. I'm not sure how much success Michigan will have. Michigan did offer. They're appreciative of that offer. That's going to be an interesting one. A guy that can hit, good wide receiver, good hands, good ball skills, strength as a safety. How many of these type of guys could possibly move to the defensive side of the ball? Because all these guys are wide receiver skill guys. A lot of these guys I just mentioned, pretty much all of those guys I just mentioned, although Tatum could be a halfback. As far as linemen goes, these are some names to get familiar with as you get into recruiting for 2022. Deion Walker, defensive tackle, Detroit Cass Tech, 6'5", 300. Christian Stokes is a safety out of Harper Woods High School, 6'1", 180. And Corey says to keep an eye a little bit on Joshua Burnham, number 3 player in the state, linebacker from Traverse City. He loves Michigan, but if there's a guy that you might be able to get a foot in the door a little bit with the Harbaugh situation going on. Maybe it's him, or maybe he just goes ahead and continues to love Michigan despite the problems with that Harbaugh and the Wolverines are experiencing. Maybe Burnham goes ahead and sticks with his Michigan affinity. But it's a topsy-turvy situation there, and Harbaugh's a strange cat. So maybe someone could come from out of state to go after Burnham, although it's a long way up there to Traverse City. So it's kind of rare for an out-of-state team to go all the way up there to pay some visits. But in the spring and summer, if you can get him to your campus, maybe you can make some headway. But 6'2", 200 linebacker type. I was watching some highlights. I think Burnham played quarterback for his team this year also, and they were in the regional finals this past weekend, I think. I don't know if they won or not. Anyway, so it looks like Michigan's up by 36 now. Guys are bringing some bad news to all the Spartan fans here. Wow. It's impressive. Michigan's doing really well right now. Michigan State doesn't play them until late February. I assume Michigan will still be good at that time. But it's hard if you're peaking early to stay good in any sport for a long time. That'll be one of their challenges. But you guys are watching. I'm not watching it right now. But the big man's got a lot of talent. A lot of talent going to his right shoulder with a drop step. The little point guard from Columbia that transferred in. I was saying last week, I think he might be the best passer in the Big Ten. Livers, sounds like Livers is playing well. I'm not sure Livers was off to a great start earlier in the year, but you knew that talent was going to come alive at some point. Gives him a stretch four, spaces things out. Brooks is a complimentary player. I didn't expect this, though. I didn't expect them to be this well-oiled. Nobody did. I mean, you're talking about that point guard, what's his name, Smith or something like that? The point guard and the big man, freshman, one's a transfer, one's a freshman. For those guys to have as good of a feel as they do for the screen roll, it's really hard to project that or expect that. And give them credit, they got it straightened out. I'll have to watch that game. I'm recording it right now. I'll have to watch that game a little bit later. All right, question number 2. MSU Spartan 777 from New Hudson, Michigan says, at this point, what probability percentage would you give the Spartan basketball team for making the NCAA tournament? Percentage that Michigan State makes the tournament. After they beat Rutgers, I would have put it at 90%. After they dropped the game to Purdue and regressed, especially in the second half, that sent it off kilter for sure a little bit. That's an expensive loss. So I'd drop it down to about 76%, which is probably the lowest we've seen at Michigan State in a long time. I mean, there were a couple seasons there when they were hovering around 500 late in the year, and they encountered some must wins in late February, and they got it done and kept the streak alive. We're not to that point yet as Michigan State observers, but most people expecting Michigan State to fall to 2-5 here real soon against Iowa. Iowa's been looking good, but you know what? Who needs to win that game more? Who needs that game more? Michigan State does. Would not be surprised if Michigan State plays well in that game. Wouldn't be surprised if Iowa wins by 20. Michigan State's been losing games by 20 once in a while this year. Wouldn't be surprised if Iowa comes out and makes 10 out of 15 from 3. They're capable of doing that. But Michigan State played really good defense against Rutgers, really good defense, and really good defense against Purdue for a half. The second half was not bad. Trevion Williams went off. Michigan State's offense was terrible. Everybody knows that. Michigan State went back to a bigger playing group against Purdue, and I think it hurt them. I liked the way they whittled it down to 9 players against Rutgers. And this loss to Purdue and some of the other questions that we were talking about last week, I've never seen... that's the way basketball is, but I don't want to say I've never seen it, but it's interesting that when you lose a game, the main thing that people criticize or second guess is who's on the floor, who's in the game. Football people will question, wow, why did they blitz there? Why were they in man-to-man? Why did they run the ball on 3rd and 5? Why did they throw it on 4th and 1 at the 5-yard line? People play calls, coverages, a little bit more, that's a little more conducive to football. Basketball, like 90% of the criticisms that I hear every year are, why was that guy in the game? Why didn't they have this guy in the game? That gets back to unknown is undefeated. But there's a lot of it in that game, and I'm guilty of some of it too. I mean, Izzo's trying to keep people happy. I don't know if he's trying to keep people happy. Probably is, consciously or subconsciously. But also trying to bring players along, give them a chance to come along. The only way you can come along is to get playing time. And giving 12 players playing time, you're also potentially curtailing development. And you get guys playing short stints. And I've said it before. I've said it for the last 2-3 weeks. It's a puzzle, and it's a different kind of puzzle. And you combine that with making a change to a true freshman point guard who's just learning things. And it's a tough puzzle in a year in which the Big Ten is tough every single night. It's a bad year for Michigan State to have this kind of a puzzle. All that depth was seen as a strength at the beginning of the season. And Izzo said he was going to make use of that depth, expecting some, COVID absences. And for good reason. When he was thinking that back in October, there were, NFL teams losing players and football teams losing players left and right and games getting canceled. And his quote before the season was, the teams that handle COVID the best are going to be the teams that win conference championships. Well, right now, I mean, most teams seem to be handling it okay. I mean, there are some cancellations and postponements here and there, but not as many as maybe I thought there would be in November and December. I mean, remember Krzyzewski came out and said we should revisit the idea of why we're even playing games. Well, I mean, hundreds of games have been played since then, and they've gone off in fine fashion. And Michigan State hasn't lost any players, and I've not heard of any Michigan State opponents having lost players off the top of my head. I mean, the game against Virginia was canceled. But anyway, so he wanted to have 12 players available, anticipating losing players, and he thought strength in numbers, and got off to a 6-0 start. Everything seemed fine, and then things kind of hit a wall there a little bit, and they continued to hit a wall. But my percentage, I'm still going to say 76. They lose to Iowa and go to 2-5. I'm still going to say 76, and they could go either way depending on how they look. If they play well, if Hoggard plays well, better at the point, they do some good things and still lose, I might increase that to 78%. I don't know. MSU Spartan 77-7 from New Hudson, Michigan says, which individual player do I think needs to step up the most for the Spartans to make the tournament? Point guard, A.J. Hoggard. Could Rocket Watts end up becoming the point guard again later this year? I kind of doubt it. I think they're going to hitch the trailer to Hoggard and see what he can do with it. But it's got to be the point guard. Whether it's Hoggard or Watts, I don't think it's going to be Lawyer long term. But you're asking which player has to step up the most for Michigan State to make the tournament this year. It's got to be the point guard. And I'm thinking that's Hoggard at this point. It's kind of dangerous that we're wondering about that question at this point, but we are. As far as, I heard an interesting comment today about players being lost to COVID, and I can't remember the exact statistic. It was on the McElroy show with the quarterback from Florida State. I always forget his name. They do a good job, though. He was talking about University of Connecticut football. Connecticut decided not to play football this year because of the COVID situation. Yet he reported, or he was citing a report that said there were 22 players for the Connecticut football team that contracted the COVID-19 virus this fall, even without football. I assume on campus. I don't know if they're on campus or off campus. But the numbers, probably more than your average football team. Not saying it's right or wrong. That's just a number to consider. Credit to college football for getting the season done. Finishing with that college football national championship last night as we record this on Tuesday. Alabama taking care of Ohio State pretty severely. A lot of talk about that today. And I agree with what McElroy said, and we had a live thread going on at the Underground Bunker message board while we watched the game, and I couldn't believe that Ohio State stuck with a 4-3. And that's something that Michigan State fans have been talking about all year since Scotty Hazelton became the defensive coordinator. Michigan State making the change from a 4-3 to a 4-2-5. Now remember, with D'Antonio, they were a 4-3, but they played a 4-2-5. They played a nickel defense in passing situations. They probably played less nickel than 90% of the teams in the country, but Ohio State has a lot of talent and speed at linebacker, so they feel they can keep their linebackers on the field. And that might be true in the Big Ten, but against the outfit that Alabama was throwing at them, not only was Ohio State going with a 4-3, they were going with a 4-4 at times. And I want to go back and watch that game again. I watched it with Herb Street once. That telecast, I recorded the film room megacast. They had Dave Clawson, the head coach of Wake Forest, and Hugh Freeze from Liberty, and the coach from North Carolina A&T, and also Gene Chizik. So they're watching it as coaches, and I always watch it every year, and I record it, and I rewind, and I go back to see what they're saying. And you learn some things that way, especially, Hugh Freeze is pretty sharp. I give him a hard time with some things, but he's sharp. And when you have a chance to listen to coaches talk amongst themselves while they watch a game, the best way to learn more about football, no matter where you are in the game, whether you're a youth player or a high school coach or a sports writer or a fan, when you get around somebody that knows a lot about football, it's best just to shut up and listen. And that's what I do around some of those guys. when I get a chance. And in that case, it's just a virtual chance. But I'm going to go back and rewatch the game and hear what they had to say. I flipped it over to that channel during commercials and found it interesting, but I never heard them say what. I don't know if they picked up. I assume they picked up that Ohio State was running a 4-4 here and there. They weren't doing it every single down. But when you're going to give up 500 yards passing like that, the antithesis is, okay, go with a 4-2-5, makes you weaker against the run. But at that point, it was going so poorly against the pass that you got to change something for the sake of change. Because even if it might not work according to your pregame strategy and estimations, you've got to change for the sake of changing, because who knows? Heck, it might work. When you get to that when you get to that point where they're scoring touchdowns every single time. And Kerry Combs was a good recruiter, assistant coach at Ohio State, then the NFL. Nice personality, all that stuff, energetic personality. But when I watched them against Indiana, I'm like, man, I don't know. Because they were having busts back there, and Indiana threw for all those yards. And when Michigan State played Ohio State, I said, if Ohio State continues to have those problems, Michigan State can get some things done through the air. Didn't happen that day. The safety, Hooker, was terrible against Indiana, and he was like the best player in the back seven against Michigan State. So they started to solve some of those things. So I was like, okay, they're solving some of those things. That's fine. Maybe they'll get better Ohio State had their COVID issues, obviously. Elephant in the room. Sorry. They missed games, missed practices. As they got more practices, they got better on defense. And they had that agenda-driven motivational game against Clemson. Flipped a switch, played great in that one game. But Coombs, I mentioned after the Indiana game, I said if they played Alabama will score 60 on them. And I retracted from that this week after watching Ohio State against Clemson, because I was like, man, does Ohio State just have a switch that they just flip? Can they keep it on against Alabama? What's it going to look like? Can Alabama stop the run? Well, they probably wouldn't be able to stop the run, but we didn't see it with Trey Sermon, and we didn't see the real Ohio State run game. We didn't see it with the true zone read threat. And that's what Michigan State faced against Ohio State. I know Michigan State wasn't great. The Michigan State stopped Master Teague. Master Teague averaged only about 3.8 yards per carry. Sermon got loose for one long one, and that was a turning point for Sermon. But on that Sermon touchdown run against Michigan State, that was zone read option. And the force player, the unblocked conflict player for Michigan State, leaned more toward the quarterback, Justin Fields, on that play. So Fields leaves it with the running back. Running back goes for a touchdown. My point is that play for the tailback was made possible by the run threat of the quarterback. And much of that game, Justin Fields would pull it out, carried himself, and get big gains on zone read option and big gains, back to pass, everything covered, tuck and run, big gain. I know against Alabama, much more speed, covering ground better. Against Michigan State, every time he tucked, he'd gain 20 yards. Against Alabama, that might only be a 5 or 6 yard gain. Here's the point. Against Alabama, they did not face the real Justin Fields. You could tell early in the game, tackled, pain, and then later in the game when there was a tuck and run scramble, he's looking around very fearful about getting hit because he's hurting, right? It wasn't the same Justin Fields. He ran zone read option once, like first drive of the second half, gained like 25 yards. Ran it, I think, one more time. But, it's like, bite the bullet. And he probably told the coaches, I'm good to try it once or twice. Did it, and it worked. Alabama didn't have to deal with that. Didn't have to deal with Sermon. So, could Alabama have kept up on the scoreboard? No. But could they have kept up longer? Yes. It's 14-14, 21-14. And like Neuheisel said today, down there in the red zone, had the receiver wide open, and Justin Fields missed him. Should have been 21-21. You're still going to lose, but you're competitive going into halftime. But Fields was not himself, and they did not have his legs as a component. But, all right, so if you're Ohio State and you're playing and you go to a 4-2-5, you switch for the sake of changing, and let them try to run. And Najee Harris is difficult to tackle. The running back for Alabama, his yards after contact, fall forward yardage, turning a 4-yard gain into an 8-yard gain. Turn 2nd and 6 into 2nd and 2 because of that power. Outstanding. He probably would have chewed them up in a 4-2-5. But make them prove it. Don't sit there in that 4-3 the whole game playing tag, giving up 500 yards passing. Gets back to Kerry Coombs. I'm really questioning that one. It's his first year as a defensive coordinator in the NFL. He's a position coach. Previously at Ohio State, he's a position coach, defensive backs coach. First time he's been a coordinator. And I thought, yeah, not good last night. I know they're going against arguably the best offense in college football history. No matter what no matter what Ohio State did, it might not have worked. But to not make adjustments on that was kind of strange. All right, so that dovetails into this next question. All right, so this is from, I don't know who wrote this. I didn't write it down. Anyway, he says, with it coming up in another post, I have to ask, even with your aversion to Nick Saban, is Saban the greatest coach of all time? Looks like we got a call here, and I didn't hear it. It's Nick Saban. Yeah, Nick Saban is the greatest college coach of all time. And that's amazing that we saw him here at Spartan Stadium. Did some good work here. Did some really good work here. And as far as my aversion of Nick Saban, I'm not going to get into that again. But yeah, I mean, what's 7 national championships? Is that what it is? And the amazing thing is, in 12 or 13 years, whatever it's been, 14 years, the years in which they haven't won national championships, they've been right there, like a fluke play away from winning even more of these. So, and he's changed his game too. He's adapted. They used to be, 2 back between the tackles. And they've adapted and gone. They went tempo there for a couple of years. Now it's less tempo, but definitely downfield passing with Sarkisian. When they would lose to Johnny Manziel or to Ole Miss with Hugh Freeze, they would, he saw how difficult it was to stop those teams in LSU last year, and changed and went heavier toward skill position offensive talent. It's been great for them. All right, question number 4 from Macklin JB. He says, realistically, how many more transfers can we expect coming in before the start of the next season? How many more transfers? I'm hearing like there's room for one more before the next semester. And I'm not hearing a specific number for the spring. We will keep our ear to the ground on that. And, try to get some insight on that. But it's hard to get information like that because they're keeping those numbers quiet because they don't want their competition to know how many slots they have. I'm guessing one more this winter, and just a hunch, nothing scientific, but maybe 2 or 3 more spring and summer. But if you quote me on that, I'm not. That's just a guess. That's not anything I'm hearing, and that's barely an educated guess. There's no expertise involved in that one. All right, let's see. Looks like Gil from Parts Unknown. He says, will Iowa shooting guard Jordan Bohannon be eligible for his 7th year of eligibility in 2022? Trying to make a joke there. It seems like he has been around for a while. What did Bohannon have against Minnesota? They beat Minnesota over the weekend, 86-71. Bohannon had 19 points. Wieskamp had 20. Combined those two, Bohannon and Wieskamp, 7 out of 10 from three-point range. Those two. That's a problem. Everybody's All-American. Luka Garza, 33 points against the Gophers, 13 out of 20. 8 trips to the foul line. So, just in time to play the Spartans. So, Bohannon, no, I don't think he'll be back next year. Yeah, I guess he will be. Anyone could come back next year, right? Why not? Let him play till he's 40. He says the Fox Sports announcer indicated during the Purdue-Michigan State game that Izzo was a friend of Trevion Williams' father. He says that's the first time I had heard that, and I followed his recruitment through high school. He says, is Izzo still... All right, and then he goes off to another question. Yeah, it's the first time I'd heard that also. Izzo, if he recruits somebody a little bit, he considers everybody his friend. I do think that, whenever a player that Izzo recruits and decides not to offer, if that player turns out to be a really successful player, Izzo just has this thing about him that he doesn't want to foster any hard feelings. He wants those people to know that he's happy for them, and he'll admit to them, hey, man, we should have taken you. Dimitri Trice, Trevion Williams, situation, scholarship room, whatever it was at the time. But he won't be Mr. Aloof about it. He'll hit it square up and make contact with those parents when he sees them. And it's even like sometimes when he loses a recruiting battle, he continues to recruit that kid. Like he continued to recruit Shane Battier. He continued to recruit Dane Fife. And these guys that he didn't get, that he didn't offer, in a way, he continues to recruit them just as people. I don't know if it's a karma thing. He doesn't want anyone thinking ill will about him, but that's just the way he is. He's a good person. And also, in terms of just for competitive reasons, if those guys have it out for Michigan State, he probably wants to dial that down, that motivation down just a little bit. I think he's genuine with his kindness. I know he's genuine with his kindness, but you can kill him with kindness a little bit also and just dampen that animosity and motivation just a little bit. And he's a guy that knows all about animosity as a motivation. All right. Gil from Parts Unknown also asks, is Izzo still experiencing some COVID symptoms? He says, why? He says, because he appears to be feeling cold on the bench, while his assistants and equipment guys wear short sleeve shirts. He says Izzo opts to always wear his long sleeve Nike jackets. At the end of the game, his collar is soaked with sweat. Normally, coaches want to feel loose, not restricted, right? So what's going on with that? I don't know. I think, he mentioned for a week or two that he was feeling down and tired. I'm not seeing any of that now. I think that he's ramped up the energy lately. As far as long sleeves, I'm the same way, man. When I'm in Breslin, by the end of the game, I got my hoodie on, zipped up, and then I usually take it off for the VCast. But I get cold, he gets cold, we get cold. What are you gonna do? I like cold weather. I've been out skating 3 straight days out on the pond. It's been great. I feel great about it. I like cold. Snow is good. I see snow, that's play. It's playground. I like that. I like hot too. If it's 101, I don't mind. I mean, I don't get along with the sun anymore. I got to really lube up with the sunscreen. But I like the extremes either way. But Conan Dyke will tell you, in the hotel rooms, I'm always like, man, it's cold in here. I'm like that 80-year-old grandpa or grandma. Why is it so cold in here? Why is it always so cold in here? Like Eddie Murphy used to say. That's me. It's probably Izzo too. He and I were both Mediterraneans. I have something to do with it. I don't know. But I don't think it's a COVID situation. Sparty from Pawleys Island, South Carolina says, hey, Jim, couple of basketball questions. Who do you think Michigan State will start out on with Luka Garza? Do they go with Kithier or maybe go with Matty Sissoko or Marcus Bingham as a starter? He says, also lots of discussion on the board about Bo Borowski and the referees from the Purdue game. Did Izzo ever comment about the possession arrow, and why does Bo hate Michigan State and Izzo so much? Possession arrow was correct. The possession arrow changed on the technical foul, so it was correct. Borowski, it happens every year, doesn't it? Sometimes twice a year. And, Conan Dyke, when we did the VCast, we talked a little bit about it. I'm not one to complain about officiating, but he's just not a very good ref. So Michigan State, poor free throw shooting in the clutch, poor offense, turnovers in the second half, a lot of problems. So Michigan State was poor in free throw shooting, poor in offensive structure, or not structure, but execution, poor in trying to figure out how to stop Trevion Williams, and there was poor officiating. They're just maybe inconsistent officiating. Yeah, I'll say poor officiating. Is he being poor official on purpose? I don't know. It goes all the way back to when Trevion Williams, remember that goaltending? Michigan State was up 33-22, and Sissoko was called for goaltending on the way up. Now, that was not Borowski. That's just bad officiating. That was not goaltending. And, there's plays in every game that can change it. And Michigan State did some good things in the first half of that game. And Michigan State's they're up 54-40 with, 45 seconds to go. And Coulda, woulda, shoulda come out with an ugly victory. But they're the same team. The record's not the same, but they're the same team. You get those 1 and 2 point games, you're the same team coming out no matter whether you win or lose. It doesn't feel that way. But, Michigan State's up 53-50. 54-50. Missed free throw. And then, just became freakazoid, flukazoid down the stretch, right? But you're the same team, same strengths, weaknesses, problems, regardless of the outcome of that game. Expensive loss for obvious reasons, especially if you go to 2-5. But you go back and look at that, it's 54-50. Henry's shooting the free throw, 19 seconds left to go up 55-50. Misses the second free throw. 19 seconds left, 55-50. You have an ugly second half. You win 55-50 ball game, whatever. 3-3 in the Big Ten. And you're feeling good about it, right? 3 straight wins. Instead, things go haywire in the last 19 seconds. That's all it takes for everybody to second guess why they had this guy on the court. I see people second guessing Tom Izzo. Hey, including myself, wondering what, about the tough puzzle about playing 12 players. He's never had a situation like this. He's never had a situation where he's playing 3-point guards in a game. This is new. So I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's just new and different. And the schedule's more difficult this year. But, Henry misses a free throw there. The next play was big. 11 seconds left. What's the guy's name? Hunter? Was that the guard number 2 for Purdue? He goes in and drives, and he leans in to Watts. I was at an angle where I could see that he leaned into him. Watts is running defense like this, and he leans into him. The rule these days, as long as you're moving and going straight up, it's not a foul on you. Leans into him, supposed to be on the offense. They flat out missed that. And, DJ Stevens saw that play, and he turns his head on the bench and goes and walks away because he don't want to bark at the officials. Guy hits 2 free throws. DJ's smiling about it because you're thinking, okay, it's 54-50, 11 seconds left. We're still winning this game. Guy hits the 2 free throws. That should have been in charge or a no call. Think about that play and the play at the very end. And I'm starting to talk about it now, and I apologize. I usually don't complain about officiating because a bad call is like a bad hop. You just play it. Be good enough so it doesn't, be a good enough team so it doesn't come down to a bad call, except when it changes the outcome of a game. Bad officiating is part of it. But this game, Michigan State wins without some of these calls. So that should have been a charge. Should not have been a foul on Watts. But because it's 54-50, they'll call a foul on the team that's losing. I don't know why, but that's the way it is. The team that's losing sometimes gets the benefit on some of those. Hits the 2 free throws. All right, now Michigan State turns it over on the inbound, right? Well, on that inbound, Hunter again, slow it down, look at it. Everybody's looking to see who touched it last. Well, the dude is hitting Watts across the arm. That's a foul. No call. I feel like Gene Cady at the podium after Dwayne Stevens with the steal layup to win the Big Ten championship in 1990, pounding the podium. That's a foul. That's a foul. Well, that's a foul. You gave them a break with the lean in. All right. Call that a foul. Send Watts to the free throw line down at the other end, up 54-52. No, they called out of bounds and give it to Iowa. And then on the inbound, Watts got a piece of it. They're throwing a lob to Trevion Williams with 11 seconds left. And it's a loose ball. All right, Henry reaches across and fouls him during the loose ball. But what Henry did to Williams was the same thing that Hunter did to Watts on the inbound. And that call goes against Henry. And that's right, that's a foul. So they got that one correct. It would have been nice if they would have gotten that one wrong too. Since they were in the habit of getting calls wrong, it would have been nice for Michigan State's purposes if they would have gotten one wrong to favor Michigan State. So Trevion Williams goes to the free throw line, makes one, and then he's a 47% free throw shooter. I think he's 8 out of 12 from the line in this game. As luck would have it, a 47% free throw shooter goes 75% against you. But he misses that one. If you're Michigan State, you'd almost rather him make it. Tie game, 6 seconds left. Michigan State's ball. Michigan State shooting last or overtime. Instead, maybe the worst case scenario is he misses the free throw, and you saw what happened. Edey, whatever his name is, the big 7'4" guy, over the back of Malik Hall, no call. That's a foul. He's over his back. He's over his back. He's on the arm with Watts on the inbound play. The charge was not a charge. 3 calls. So that's a foul. And, well, that creates they didn't call a foul on that. It should have been a foul. Instead, that's a loose ball, tie. Possession arrow goes to Purdue. People are wondering, why was Malik Hall boxing out Edey, or whatever his name is, the 7'4" guy? Good question. Could you have gone with Kithier there? You'd have got an inch taller and 5 pounds heavier. But, Kithier and Hall are similar in terms of rebounding proficiency. Izzo was asked about that after the game. Matty Sissoko would have been the best rebounder. However, if he gets a rebound, you're up 1 and you're shooting a free throw with 6 seconds left, and he's going to miss it. So that's why he didn't have Bingham or Sissoko in there, and that's a valid point. Hall boxed him out. Hall should have been going to shoot free throws with 6 seconds left, up by 2. Feel good about that situation. That's if the officials are good. Sometimes the officials are going to be bad. Sometimes your free throw shooting is going to be bad. So when you're missing free throws, it's hard to complain about the officials. But the officials were bad in the last 20 seconds. They just were. So then comes the inbound play for the game-winning shot. On that one, they ran like an egg beater motion type of thing in the lane, and the illegal screen by number 0. He goes into Hall, and they just allow bulldozer screens in the lane. Because at that point, the officials are like, okay, we're going to let them decide it. I'm going to swallow my whistle. I'm not going to call anything. That's what it looks like, because Purdue just flat out got away with bulldozer moving screens. 2 of them in there. That's how Trevion Williams gets open. Then it ends up being a switch. And Hauser tries to get out on him, contest it late, and he's open. People are like, how can that guy be open? How can you let him be open for the game-winning shot? Well, how? Illegal screens. Look at it. It's a joke. So Purdue wins. And Izzo, to his credit, didn't complain much about it. I thought we'd have a press conference today. I thought we'd have content at SpartanMag.com today for the press conference, but it sounds like it's going to be tomorrow, the day before the game, which is usually it's early in the week, but because the game was Tuesday, of course, or whatever day that was. I don't know. Monday? I don't know. Having Tuesday off, but usually the interviews are 2 days before the game, but did not have interviews today. But that's garbage. But anyway. So, Borowski, he spars with Izzo, and they were sparring from the beginning in this game, and it's just always going to be that way. Does Izzo get bad calls because of it? I'm starting to wonder. Is he really that bad? Like that call, Izzo was really irritated about that call, that illegal screen Julius Marble, that illegal contact. They called it in transition. That's like 12 minutes to go in the game. Just transition foul. Marble's running on offense in transition, gets bumped, pushes him back, and they call it on Marble. That's one of Michigan State's 10 turnovers. And Izzo's like, what planet are you on? I don't know. It won't be the last time. But it'd be nice to get him out of the Big Ten if possible. I don't say that about officials ever, usually. They're doing their best, but I think we've seen enough. Sparty from Pawleys Island, South Carolina. Actually, it's PT Spartan 254 says, does the rubber band man get played before tip-off at the new place? With the new pregame? No. Sadly, it's not played. I wonder if I can dial that up. Is this? I don't know if that's working or not. That's a Spartan band playing Rubber Band Man. I don't know if you can hear that or not. Let me know if you can hear that. Let me know if you can hear that. Can you hear the MSU band playing Rubber Band Man? Give me a yes or no over here in the chat area. I can wait. You guys are in a little bit like a 30-second delay, so. Can you hear that? Maybe not. Anyway, Bill from Byron Center. We're not getting any text here. I'm trying to find out over here in the chat area. Let me know if you can hear that. Because I do think, yes, you can hear it. Good. Can you hear me as well? Anyway, this rendition, this is my favorite song by any pep band for any college basketball team in the country. Michigan State's band, when they play this pregame, it's awesome. Awesome. That's why sometimes we use it for the skull session during basketball season when I get with Nils Deco to go over basketball. We use it as the intro music. And I don't think this will be copyright flagged by YouTube. We'll find out, but I think it's great. And it's also great when Michigan State is cutting down a net after winning a championship, and this is one of the songs that they play. They'll play 3 or 4 or 5 on their list, but it's awesome. Anyway, that's the best. That's as good as it gets. And I've heard all the bands, people. I've been to about 72 NCAA tournament games with Michigan State involved, Duke, UCLA, North Carolina, Kentucky, everybody. I've seen everybody. Syracuse. And even if they're not playing Michigan State, I'm there to see other teams play. You know, I was there, when Syracuse lost to Vermont, because then Vermont played Michigan State the next day. Seen a lot of them. I've seen them all. That's the best. That's the best song, the best rendition of any song. It helps that it's a great song. And they played a little quicker than the original song. Who did the original song? Was it the Spinners or the OJs? That's a great song. But the MSU band's version of it is just maybe a little tick quicker. And the whole arrangement, it just sounds like basketball. Usually it's being played during pregame warm-ups, and it's great. It's great. It's the best. It's as good as it gets. Doesn't get any better than that. So my man was asking if they play that before games now without a band and no cheerleaders and no fans, and the answer is no, they don't play that. They play music, but it's like, current music. So they'll play fight song and stuff a little bit. They'll do the fight song. They'll come out to the fight song. And I posted that over in the in-game thread during the Purdue game on Monday, whatever day that was this week. I took video of Purdue coming out on the court and Michigan State coming out on the court in the empty arena. And I've not watched the video, but I put it up there, and I didn't even see what comments were made. Spinners, thanks, Aaron Mays. I didn't see what comments were made about my video. It was just like a minute and a half. I've got to look at it to see if it gives it justice. But the antiseptic feel of an empty arena when a team is running out, trying to get themselves pumped up with, the band music piped in. On TV, when I watch games on TV, it seems like a real actual game. When you're there, it's different. I mean, the competition, of course, is great. And in some ways, the intensity comes through more because you can hear sometimes what they're saying. I compared it to, like, if you've ever been to a high school wrestling meet, where there's not a lot of people there, but it's just intense as hell. That's kind of what it is. And I find it intriguing and very entertaining. I think it's a privilege to be there. But it's just a shame that. So I took that video so you guys could see what it looks like. I'll have to go back and look at it. I put it on Vimeo. I didn't put it on YouTube. I couldn't put it on YouTube because YouTube will flag it copyright infringement for use of music. Vimeo, get around it a little bit more. Anyway, Bill from Byron Center says, under Mel Tucker, we've seen additional resources devoted to the creative use of graphics and video, which is primarily directed toward recruiting. I think that staff does an outstanding job. I agree with that. He says, I'm wondering if their talents will be used in other areas, such as the video boards at Spartan Stadium on game day. Does any of that fall under the purview of Tucker and company? He says, in my opinion, the game day experience for the crowd and recruits could be enhanced greatly. with more creative use of the video and sound system. He says, I've been to all Big Ten stadiums, many of which have since been upgraded, but I have to believe that our setup is as good or better than anybody in the Big Ten. I would agree with that in terms of video, period. All right, and he goes on to say, you've obviously visited more venues and with more frequency than I, so I'm also interested in your opinion as to how the Spartan Stadium video and sound system compare to the competition. It's a long question. We're talking a lot about these things right now, right? These are like June or July. No, like May and June off-season things. I've got some thoughts about basketball, some more thoughts. We'll get back to that in a minute. Yeah, Tucker does have a hand in what goes on game day. And if he really wants to do something differently, it'll get done. This year, for games, they came out to Thunderstruck again, which I don't know. That seems a little tiresome to me. I think it's okay for a while. And, nothing against AC/DC. Back in the old days, I appreciated my metal. Back in the old days when I had hair. It's an ugly scene. I didn't go long hair or anything like that. But, I like a lot of music. I like everybody. Pretty much. So, but Thunderstruck, whatever. I don't know. The best, speaking of AC/DC, Iowa comes out to Back in Black. And they wear black. And it rocks. And it's good. And that's good. And I like the way Iowa does some stuff with they show like an old video of Niall Kinnick, like old black and white highlights, and and it is World War II attire and things like that, and then it goes into Back in Black, which is great. Wisconsin is good, and I'm biased here. They come out to Where the Streets Have No Name by U2. Which I think is just an awesome song. Great song. Great song. Good gosh. Great song, right? And they cut it off before the lyrics start. But, it's got that it's got like that castle-like sound is the way I'd describe it. Maybe, I don't know. It's U2, right? And they're showing old highlights of who knows whatever their history was. And then they'll show Barry Alvarez, like his initial press conference, I think, when he was first hired, and the crowd goes crazy because it's a young Barry Alvarez, saying we're going to turn this around or whatever he says. But in the background, you got Where the Streets Have No Name building, and then a few other things, then Ron Dane and all these other things, and Heisman's and all. They've got great video in recent years, and then they come out onto the field, Streets Have No Name, and then on Wisconsin strikes up. That's pretty darn good. I'm biased because I like U2 a lot. I'm biased because I love that song as an opening song. The Vancouver Canucks used to use that in the playoffs coming out of the dressing room. Sometimes with a couple of youth hockey players skating with them. You get like Game 6 of the playoffs, Western Conference semifinals, and Where the Streets Have No Name build. And they got it on a loop so it lasts longer before it ever gets into the lyrics. Outstanding. I was at, I saw U2 at the Palace once. It was that year when they had the teardrop as part of the main floor. Like there was the main floor, and then there's like the super main floor. My wife had gotten tickets through somebody online. And if you had main floor, then you show up and you give them your ticket and they scan it and it says winner, winner. We're like, what does that mean? Winner, we won. We got to go in the teardrop area. So we're like essentially in row 10. All the way, you're in like row 2 over here, then you can walk over here and you're in row 2. It's plenty of room in there. And I like U2. I'm not the biggest U2 fan. My brother-in-law is. There's plenty of people that are huge U2 fans. I'm not in that caliber. I just appreciate U2, right? And it was great to be there. But when they're playing Where the Streets Have No Name, I had my back to the stage. I was like over here looking like there's a catwalk going this way, and maybe, Bono might have been over here on this thing, and the guitar's behind me, and there's like that little licks. There's little licks in Where the Streets Have No Name, and you hear that part as the song is already underway, and I turn around, I'm like, how am I here? It was surreal. It was like, when you see a band like that, I know they play 100 times a year and all that stuff, but when you get a chance to see them, or bands of that ilk, there's something historic about it, and that felt historic when I saw them. So I'm biased when I say Wisconsin with Where the Streets Have No Name is my favorite, but it kind of ticks me off because Wisconsin does a lot of things well. The jump around thing, that's fun. That's theirs. But even after they do jump around in the third quarter, like there's like midway through the fourth quarter where they all sing "Fill Me Up Buttercup," and they all sing, because by that time they're all just sauced on whatever whatever refreshments they had smuggled into the stadium, and they all have their little red and white overalls on, and they don't even know what the score is. They don't care. And credit to them, they're usually up by 20 at that point. Not that they care. So you got to appreciate them. They do care, but that's seeing a game at Wisconsin. If you can handle the tail kicking you're probably going to get, it's an experience. Anyway, I've already talked too much about that. Let's go over here to the chat area. See what kind of questions are over here. A little lighter on questions today. I did not post over at the YouTube, over at the Twitter, and we're a little lighter on numbers because of it, but whatever. That's all right. Got Old Tuck, the bell cow. I'm wondering, did we get... I know that my friend Nils tried to call. Did he try to call again? My phone. Old Tuck tried to call too. Darn. Wow, New Boston, Michigan tried to call again. They tried to call last week and I didn't let them on. Old Tuck tried at 8:30. He tried at 8:48. Oh, here's one. It's Flint. I don't recognize this one. Well, I don't know why those didn't... Hey, guys, try to call in again. I'm not sure why they didn't go through.
Call from
Gator.
To accept, press 1. To
Gator.
send a voicemail, press 2.
We
To
do have
accept,
some...
press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2.
All right. I might regret this. We're going to go with it. Oh, we dropped him. Oh, here's Old Tuck. I think it's working now. Old Tuck, you there? Old Tuck,
Call
are you...
from
Old Tuck.
To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2.
Old Tuck, are you there? Are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
From Austin, Texas. Old Tuck. He's a regular on the show.
You were saying you had Gator on there.
Yeah, the guy said, Gator, I tried to take his call, but it dropped for some reason. So, Gator, you can try back.
Okay.
And try back maybe after Old Tuck is done. But anyway, Old Tuck, I've been rambling a little bit tonight on some other topics, and I feel a little bit bad about that, but that's just kind of the mood I'm in. I don't know if people appreciate it or not, but let's hear what Old Tuck has to say. What's going on, Old Tuck?
Well, you talked to... I heard somebody complaining about Bohannon being there for 10 years, and it made me think of Andy Kaufman in Illinois. He was there for 100 years. He could shoot the jumper. And, another Iowa great, Jeff Settles, one of the BTN's very own. He was there for 9-10 years with Dr. Tom, as well as Jacob Jacks. Iowa's had a lot of these guys where they give them double eligibility. Luke Recker, he played a couple places, but he was around forever.
Yes.
But yeah, made me think of those old birds.
Just Settles for sure.
And
he was a great one at the beginning and played through some injuries and good career. He's a good commentator too. But yeah.
Yeah, he'd be in the front of that diamond press that Dr. Tom ran. He'd be on the ball, waving his arms. He was on the front of the diamond that Dr. Tom Davis ran. But yeah, it just kind of made me think of that when he mentioned Bohannon. And there's been too many Bohannons around Wisconsin, Iowa. They're just everywhere. Good players, too.
That's part of the problem. Yeah, that press that Dr. Tom
What I wanted to do,
had.
Comp, was a quick exercise. You've done this exercise in the past, but, I talked to you last week before Purdue. Talked about Tom turning the screws and kind of putting the puzzle pieces in place, and all of a sudden it blew up a little bit. And I still think he's playing too many. But you do that little exercise you do with the minutes. If you think about the 2 spot, you got Brown Dog, you've got Rocket, you've got Langford, and there's only so many minutes there. If you flex Rocket over to 1 a little bit with Holgard, I'm just trying to figure all the minutes and the puzzle and what it might look like if things get honed in. I was thinking maybe you'd take 5 minutes or less and go through that exercise.
Like how the minutes all go together?
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, like Malik Hall at 4 and Hauser at 4, and if you're going to play anybody else at 4, I mean, you start to risk continuity and letting guys, get going a little bit. And I don't know, it just seems like we're running into that at a couple positions. Brown, Hauser playing less than they have. Rocket Watts, in my opinion, he was a big part. He was a big key coming down the stretch last year.
Yeah.
And he's playing less now than he was last year down the stretch. And I would have thought if we were going to do anything good this year, he was going to be probably the straw. It's just not turning out that way. So I'm still just trying to solve the puzzle myself, and curious how you would maybe slot some of those minutes.
I think that Izzo's trying to figure it out also, and that's one of the areas I wish that we had a chance to go to practice like we normally do in a non-COVID year, or to have press conferences on a Monday over at the arena. To get a chance, I would have had a chance to talk to Izzo off the record on a number of occasions, to ask him, to sort through some of those puzzles some of those questions he's entertaining. And a lot of times he will feel the same way that you do about things as problems are arising. He knows that it's not ideal what's going on with allocation of minutes as he's trying to find players to do what needs to be done. That's why I thought the second half of the Rutgers game was so interesting, that he had it down to 9 players. And I thought it worked well. All of a sudden, the turnovers stopped when that happened. You look at the second half of the Purdue game in terms of minutes played. Just the second half minutes. Gabe Brown didn't play in the second half. And I wanted to go back. I went back and rewatched the second half last night. I wanted to rewatch the first half today also, just to see what happened with Trevion Williams, what they did in his 9 minutes, and also what Gabe Brown might have done to end up on the bench. I didn't see what the problem was. It might have been just some little small detail that they need done better. And traditionally, Izzo gets it done by docking playing time, whether it's Brandon Dawson, we've been over this before, other players or whatever. But for Gabe Brown not to play, and, Foster Lawyer played 3 minutes, Rocket Watts played 9 minutes in the second half. It seemed like Lawyer played more than that, but, Hauser played 13, Kithier played 3, Kithier was in foul trouble. But, Gabe Brown didn't play, you're playing 11 guys. Sissoko plays 3 minutes, Lawyer 3 minutes, Marble 5 minutes, Bingham 2 minutes. There's only, when you're looking at the big men, there's 80 minutes between 6 players you got to divide up. 80 minutes, 6 players. So I don't know what the right formula is, but when you look at Trevion Williams, we'll get into that now. A lot of people complaining about Michigan State's defense on Trevion Williams. Now, Trevion Williams in the first half. Now, this is what happens. All of a sudden, they say Trevion Williams has 24 points, and 21 of them are in the second half. And that's when people start to realize that Joey Hauser is covering him. And then at the very end, Malik Hall on the box out, or playing, covering him in the last play. And then, all the talk shows and message boards are like, how come we went small? Why did we go small? Well, Michigan State only went small against Trevion Williams for, let's see here, the last 8 minutes of the game. The last 8 minutes of the second half. And he was already hot by that time. By that time, he already had 14 points in the second half against big men. But a lot of people are ripping on Izzo like, why didn't you have Bingham on him? Why did you have Marble on him? Why did you have Kithier on him? Why didn't you have Sissoko on him? Like idiots, those are the people that he got 14 points against. You know what I'm saying? But people don't watch until the end when it's a problem. Then they see the number. Then they see who's guarding them, and they assume it's been like that all night. Now, I'm not saying they did it right, but Michigan State changed the defender, the primary defender on Trevion Williams. I went over it last night. 9 times in the second half. They changed the defender 9 times. All 6 guys, all 6 of Michigan State's scholarship big men guarded Trevion Williams in the second half. Sadly or not sadly, however you want to look at it. He had, 3 points in the first half. He only played 9 minutes in the first half because of foul trouble. So for people to say they did a good job on him in the first half, well, he's in foul trouble a little bit. All right, I want to go through the whole thing, Old Tuck. You want to go through the whole thing with Trevion Williams in the second half? Do you have the patience for that? You still there, Old Tuck?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so
I'm here.
Michigan State began the game with began the second half with Kithier on him. And they posted him up, Trevion Williams, the first possession of the second half. And he missed against Kithier. Next time down, they posted up again. This time he had a little half hook over Kithier, fouled and won. That's foul number 3 on Kithier. And Michigan State ran that little ghost double team at him. Like he gets it in the post, and on the first dribble, they shoot a double team at him, but then the double teamer went back. It was like they faked a double team. It was a ghost double team. Michigan State does not double team a lot. They double teamed a little bit against Rutgers. I mean, for seasons and years, they might only double team like one big man a year. They've done it back-to-back games now. This time they didn't stick with it. It was a ghost double team, which I've never seen them do before on the dribble. Anyway, all right, so he gets those 3 against TK. Kithier. Kithier comes out with his 3rd foul. Sissoko goes in. And you might remember he scored against Sissoko, but Sissoko blocked it and they called goaltending. Do you remember that one? It was like a bad goaltending call. He shot it clearly on the way up. They called goaltending. So that cuts Michigan State's lead to 33-21. It's 18-15 left. Problem with Sissoko is Sissoko had an error on a ball screen defense. He just kind of came apart, screwed it up, and the power forward, I think it was Wheeler, made a 3-pointer because of Sissoko's error in ball screen defense 3-pointer. So Sissoko comes out, doesn't go back in. So that's why Sissoko didn't play much. Could he have gotten a defensive rebound here or there? Would he have made other mistakes against the in some ways, the quickest, most intricate offense you face all year is Purdue's offense? Made a mistake on a ball screen, gives up a 3-pointer. So that's why Sissoko's out. So Kithier's out with 3 fouls. Sissoko's out because he screwed up. Julius Marble comes in, and he makes a mistake when he didn't hedge on a curl cut. What was it here? He didn't have, it was a curl cut with Stepanovic or whatever his name is, their shooter. He's got a curl coming down the lane, and he didn't show to stop the ball, and they get a tip in. But it's a mistake by Marble. He missed a hedge there. So then Bingham comes in. So Kithier's got a foul. Kithier's got 3 fouls. Sissoko screws up. Marble screws up. But Sissoko screws up on a ball screen defense. Marble screws up not showing on a hedge. And those things, you do those against Purdue, you're going to spring leaks, and you got a problem. Now Purdue's coming back. It's like an 8-point game. Bingham goes in 14-13 left. And then, let's see what Bingham did. All right, Trevion Williams had a tip in against Bingham to close it at 38-31 with 12:53 left. That was Trevion Williams' 7th point of the half. So Trevion got 3 against Kithier, and then his 5th point came on the goaltend against Sissoko. And his 7th point is a tip in against Bingham. Now on that tip in, and then a little bit later, he scores again against Bingham, and he's fouled, goes to the free throw line, misses the free throw. So he gets 9 points against Bingham, pretty much like back-to-back possessions. 12:53 left, 12:12 left. So now Bingham's screwing up. And on this one, Bingham gets out of position because there's a driver, and Bingham, he leaves Trevion for a minute, trying to gather himself to go up to block a shot. And it's not, the guy isn't coming straight to the rim. I can't remember who was loose on that one. But Izzo is not big on blocking shots. If it happens within the framework of the defense, that's fine. Some of his best defensive teams have had good rim protection. But don't come out of your shoes and leave Trevion Williams and lose your rebounding position in hopes of blocking a shot. He'd rather not have the block shot. If you alter it late, that's fine. But if he misses it, defensive position is first. And you can say, hey, you should have block shots. Block shots are a good thing. Yes, within the framework of the defense without coming out of your shoes, yes. But don't be gathering yourself trying to block shots all over the place. He had 3 good ones in the first half. That's great, whatever. But don't get too addicted to that. If you want to block shots, you can go to Lehigh and block all the shots you want, or go to St. Bonaventure and block all the shots you want and go, 14-16 and be happy with all your blocked shots. But all those banners they have up there are from playing a system, a certain way of playing defense. And it does not accept coming out of your shoes, leaving your responsibility, hunting block shots. But that's what Bingham did. Got nothing against him. at all. He had a real good first half, block shots, all those things. But he comes out trying to get ready for a block shot. Shot goes up. Trevion gets the rebound, puts it back up and in, foul. So Bingham's got to come out. You can't do that. Bingham had given up the one basket and then another going to the line. He gave up a tip in, then he gave up that play, 12 minutes. Now Bingham's out, and you don't put him back in. Matty Sissoko messed up the ball screen. He's out. Marble messed up the cutter. Stepanovic didn't hedge. He's out. Kithier goes back in now with 3 fouls. And you can say, well, these guys are afraid because they're making mistakes. You got to leave them in, let them play through their mistakes. Well, it's down to 6-point game now, and you got to go with your best. Meanwhile, on offense, you're starting to have a terrible drought. And people after the game, how come they didn't have Marble in there? I'm telling you I didn't have Marble in here because he screwed something up. So did Bingham, and so did Sissoko. Yeah, but they would have been better. No, that's the unknown is undefeated garbage. I'm not saying they would have won with anything, but every time usually when coaches make decisions, 95% of the time, there's pretty well thought out logic behind their decisions. All you have to do is go back and look at it again. All right, so Bingham screwed that up. Kithier's back in, and at 12-minute mark, he gets his 4th foul, so he goes back out. Now Marble's back in, and now they're starting to do a top of the key feed, which is something Purdue does. A lot of teams don't feed the post on the top of the key. Usually go to the 45 angle and feed to the block. Purdue will do it and they'll feed into the lane. The timing has to be tricky because if you wait too long, you'll get a 3-second violation. They do it. It's difficult because it's hard to topside front from that angle. You're usually right behind them, and it's difficult. So he came in and Marble did that. You still there, Old Tuck? Old Tuck, you still there?
Oh, yeah, I'm here.
All right, let me see what...
Good stuff, Comp. I'll hang on or hang up.
No, hang in there for a second. So Marble's got top of the key, and that was not going all that well. Then they went with... Marble was in there, and Malik Hall was at the 4. And Hall did a real good job with a hedge on Williams, and he blocked a shot as a help on Williams, and Williams missed a shot there. But then it goes out of bounds. Then on a baseline inbound play, he hit a fall-away half hook against Marble, foul and 1. Now he's got 14 points in the second half. So he scored. We took you through 7. Had 7 on the tip-in against Bingham, 9 on the shot block position thing against Bingham, and then 11 foul. That was TK. That was Kithier's 4th foul. That was a top of the key post entry, difficult Purdue style. Hits both free throws. Now he's got 11. Now Marble's on him, and Malik Hall had a real good hedge. Now this is why they went to Hall later, because Hall was starting to do some good things. Had real good hedge, blocked a shot as a help against Trevion Williams, goes out of bounds, and then he missed a shot on that one, goes out of bounds, baseline inbound play, and Trevion Williams scores on the baseline inbound play against Marble, fouled, and 1 on like a fall-away half hook. Now he's got 14 points. There's 8 minutes left. Michigan State's up 41-38. So there's 8 minutes left. He's scored 14 points in the second half. Malik Hall's done a couple of good things, but Marble's struggling. Bingham struggled. Kithier's got 4 fouls. Sissoko struggled on the ball screen defense. There's 8 minutes to go. Who do you put him on? Who do you put on defense now? He's already got 14. That's when he went with Hauser. Don't blame his 24 second half points on Hauser playing small. That's when he went to Hauser because everything else was screwing up. And everybody's like, Izzo screwed the game. No, watch the game. Before you start blaming Izzo, watch the damn game. Jeez. So Hauser comes in. And I'm not yelling at you, Old Tuck. I'm just reacting to the crap that I've heard all week about this. Right? So then Hauser comes in. Hauser comes in and all right, he missed on an up and under against Hauser. So Hauser's playing defense against him. They ran that ghost double team at him again, missed. And then top of the key feed, they got in on Hauser and he scored. That makes it 48-45. Now there's 3:15 left. And at the other end, Hauser hits a 3-pointer and it breaks Michigan State's 12-minute streak without a field goal, right? So your offense is dying down here. And people want Bingham in? People want Sissoko in? That's going to solve the off. I mean, Michigan State had gone 12 minutes without a field goal down here. Now, we'll talk about that in a second. All right, so he scores in the post, 3:15 left. Now he's getting hot. So now he's got 16 and a half. He scores its 18th on a jump hook against Hauser. And Hauser actually played pretty decent defense on that, cuts it to 50-47, 2:15 left. He's got 18 points in the second half, 4 of them against Hauser. And then top of the key feed again. Hauser fouls him. Now I think Hauser has 3 fouls, makes 1 of 2 free throws. There's a minute 39 left. Michigan State's still up 51-48. Now he scored 19 in the second half. Trevion Williams, 5 against Hauser. Same thing, top of the key feed to the post against Hauser. Hauser fouls him, goes to free throw line, makes both of them. 47% free throw shooter, makes both free throws here. Now he's got 21 in the second half, 7 against Hauser, but you're under a minute left, right? So Michigan State runs a play with Hauser and Henry at the other end. Henry gets in a little jump stop mid post, scores 53-50, 50 seconds left. All right, so now on defense, 38 seconds to go. Michigan State's up by 3. And this is like Hauser, he'd given up 7. But again, if you put those other guys in the game, Purdue's going to foul them and put them in the free throw line, and they're going to miss. Sissoko, Marble, Bingham. Maybe not Bingham, I don't know. 38 seconds left. On this one, there's a switch on this defense. This time, instead of feeding from the top of the key, they try to feed from the left wing, 45 degrees. And on this one, Hall and Hauser are excellent. It ends up with a switch, so Hall is playing defense on Trevion Williams. Hauser's on the 4. The 4-man's trying to give the entry pass. Hauser, the way Michigan State likes to do it is the guy in the post. So if the basket is here, and like this, if I'm playing post defense, they don't want to be behind him. They don't want full front. They want top side front so he can't get it. That's the top side. And the ball is being 45-degree angle inbound, entry pass, post entry. He's taking away the other half. So you got the top side front taking this half, and the ball pressure's taking away the other half if they do it right. And Hall and Hauser did it perfectly, and Purdue couldn't get it in bounds, and Purdue called timeout, if you remember. So that's looking pretty good. And Hall, I'm guessing Hall went back to the bench and said, let me cover him, I got him. And they might have already been thinking that. But on that switch, Hall did a good job with him. So now Hall is the 6th different big man to guard him. They come back out, they run, Hall is guarding him. And that's when they ran, the sideline inbound play, and Hunter drives to the baseline and turns it over, throws an interception to Aaron Henry. Henry has it. You're up by 3, 19 seconds left. This game's over, right? Makes 1 or 2 free throws. But that was Hall on him, and that switch was okay. Now 11 seconds left. Well, then came the lean in. We talked about that. They make the 2 free throws. Should have been a foul on them, charge. And then the next time, on the baseline inbound play after the turnover, that's when Hall was guarding him. That's when Hall was guarding him at the very end on both of those. So Hall guards him down the stretch on those last 2. As far as the offense goes, so I mean, the problem is there was no good answer, and there's going to be no good answer against Garza either. You're hoping Sissoko can become a little better. In some ways, that was disappointing with the ball screen problem he had at the beginning of the second half there. But these are problems that you run into when you're playing so many guys, 12 guys. And I'm sure Izzo knows that. He would love to give all those minutes. He'd be better off if they only had Marble and maybe 2 other guys. Because then you give him all the minutes and you just sink or swim with him, and he just gets better out of necessity. But instead, you're picking and choosing. You're cutting up the pie chart so much that all those guys played a little bit in the second half, and I'm not sure any of those guys got better. They made mistakes. They can work on those mistakes in practice, but the incremental improvement of each guy, it's a problem. Now, on offense, when Michigan State went 12 straight minutes without a field goal, all right, I went through the whole thing, 12 minutes without a field goal. Now, they had... Hey, Old Tuck, you still there? I think we lost Old Tuck. I'm going to get criticized for letting Old Tuck go. I apologize about that. But I got on a roll a little bit. I apologize. Sorry, guys. Anyway, I'm going to finish my thought about the offensive drought. In those 12 minutes without a field goal, there were 18 possessions. 18 possessions. It's a slow-paced game. 12 minutes, 18 possessions. In those 18 possessions, they went to the free throw line 6 times. They made 9 out of 12. So it's not like they weren't scoring. So 6 trips to the foul line, 12 free throws, scored 9 points. So although they had 12 minutes without a field goal, they were scoring 9 points. All right, doesn't make it great, but anyway, 18 possessions. So those were 6 of the possessions. They had 6 turnovers during those 18 possessions. The other 6 possessions, they missed the free field goals. A couple times they had second chance opportunities. They were 0 for 9 on those 6 trips. So 18 possessions during that drought, 6 turnovers, 6 trips to the foul line, and 0 for 9 from the field. 0 for 9 from the field, not a great stretch, but 0 for 9 from the field is not cataclysmic. I mean, 0 for 9 stretches happen in basketball games. It's not good, and you might lose if that happens. Over the course of 12 minutes, it seems like a long time, but like I said, they scored 9 points at the foul line during that stretch. But 0 for 9, and some of those shots, Hauser missed a pick and pop. Aaron Henry pulled up from 3. Langford had a little 16-footer, catch and shoot off the guard's through play, pretty good shot. Hogard missed a 5-footer in transition, and Izzo told him he'd have rather have him pass that, even though it was like a 3-on-3. It wasn't really a number situation. Langford missed a layup in the blitz, offensive rebound. Then Langford missed a side ball screen, 16-foot pull-up. Good shot with 12:30 left. Watts drove baseline, pulled up 8 feet, did not go straight up, kind of faded toward the rim. Izzo hates that. 13 minutes left, missed that one. Bingham got the offensive rebound, fouled, made both free throws. But, some of these shots are not terrible shots. Second half, 4 out of 18, 10 turnovers. That's terrible, of course. Turnovers, an assortment of those. Konendijk and I went through all that stuff. The first turnover was a screen and roll to Sissoko, let it go through his hands. So Sissoko, a little bit of a bad at both ends in that game. Marble had illegal contact in transition. Borowski, it was like a Munich 1972 foul call there. And then, the dribble handoff charge with Hogard, that was a strange one. The dribble handoff charge, he's doing a dribble handoff and charges into the guy. Inexperience a little bit there, I guess. Then there was a legal screen with Hauser out of a diamond set. When they go diamond set, they're usually trying to post up Aaron Henry at mid-post. Illegal screen. It was a good call. Then another turnover, blitz. Aaron Henry drove, fumbled it. That was a little ugly. Now, like Henry's trying to do too much. They've cut it to 36-29. Now they're back to where they were when Watts was the point guard, kind of, and they're getting out of sorts. People trying to do too much. Lawyer, remember that high screen handoff? He kind of. This one was a high ball screen. He dribbled it off his foot. Defender knocked it off his foot, goes out of bounds, and Izzo just does this number on the sideline. I don't know. Then Rocket push, fast break, travel, 10 minutes to go. It's an assortment of things. It's not like one guy doing it each time. Langford, travel on a jump stop at transition. Some of these are guys playing too fast, whether it be transition or the charge on a DHO, on a dribble handoff, which I'd never seen before. Then they have the DHO kicked out of bounds. That was Hogard and Langford. Hogard's coming, dribble handoff, gets kicked back court. 8 minutes to go. Just that one, a couple guys that haven't played much together, I'm guessing. Meanwhile, you look at Michigan with guys not playing much together, and they don't have a problem. But, so it's the point now, they had that terrible first half against Minnesota, and then this terrible second half against Purdue. So I'm maybe at this point it's no longer isolated incidents, of course, when it's happening this frequently. The turnovers, of course, is not. But the turnover problem, partly it's you're breaking in and training a brand new point guard on the job training against the deepest, toughest conference in the country, and it's gonna be hard to get that squared away. So I got a little bit fired up here. Michigan State's been losing games. People getting mad about the coach who's hung up 8 Final Fours. Go, if you want to rip on the coach, that's fine, but go back and look through the whole entire context, and be my guest if you could come up with a better defensive cover in those situations. Could they have gone with Malik Hall instead of Kithier for the final box out and the final free throw? Possibly. Would have given him 1 more inch and 5 more pounds. Hall and Kithier, similar defensive players. But like I said, if you put Sissoko in there or Bingham to get the rebound, they might get the rebound, but then they got to go make a free throw up by 1 with 6 seconds left. And then the other team's got to go 90 feet in 6 seconds to beat you, but I don't know. Also, the last play, I was talking about the officiating earlier. Henry on that last drive, he kind of avoided contact a little bit, and there was no contact, no foul on that, but there was as much contact on that play as there was at the beginning of the whole sequence when Hunter drove and they called that foul on Watts when Michigan State was up by 4 with 11 seconds to go. Pretty much identical amounts of contact. Difference is Henry kind of avoided the contact, still took contact, whereas Hunter dove into the player and should have been called for a charge. Instead, he gets the call, which sets the dominoes going. Michigan State loses the game. And that's the name of that tune. Anyway, let's go over here to the chat area, see what's going on with... if I've still got you, some of you guys might be bored by now. But hey, I'm just challenging you guys with some serious basketball film study and theory here. I hear other talk shows and message board stuff going on where people just, thinking about the last minute and a half and what Izzo had on the court. Some of that, when it's in the fog of war, you miss what's actually going on. And I don't mean to use the word war lightly, but sometimes it's better to spend a little time on it, go back and look over it. I know some people do, and I have a lot of respect for those people that do, but some people don't. And that's okay if you don't, but if you don't, then you have negative opinions, you better be able to back it up. I'm not saying that any of those were, that something that all of that was correct, but I'm not sure what would have been correct. They went to Hauser with 6 minutes to go, and the horse was already out of the barn. And he scored a little bit in Hauser, but he already scored 14 against those other guys. Old Tuck, first guy checking in. Angelo Gross enthusiast. Harold Joyner enthusiast. I appreciate it, Angelo Gross enthusiast. He's here early, the last month or so, with bells on. Appreciate that. Old Tuck checking in first. Mr. Bone Man, Brian V, and Jacob Terry. That's the starting 5. Got Old Tuck in the middle. Gross is on the wing. Got Bone Man to the point tonight. Brian V stretch 4, and Jacob Terry heating it up at the 2 guard. Mr. Bone Man. Yep, he did make the starting 5. Thanks. And Michigan put into Wisconsin already. I don't know what the final score is. I'll have to go and check that out. That is kind of that's amazing. I mean, that's one of the college basketball stories of the year. What's going on there? We'll see if they can keep it up. All right. Jeff Heck says P.T. O'Malley's had $1 domestic bottles and karaoke on Tuesday nights. That sounds about right. I wonder what era that would have been. Mr. Bowman says, I know Brain, my Michigan fans are giving me a lot of junk. Oh, he says, I know, Brian, my Michigan fans giving me a lot of junk. Mr. Bowman, were your Michigan fans giving you a lot of junk last year? Well, they split last year. Were they giving you a lot of junk the year before that, before Michigan State swept 3 in a row against them? Were they talking about basketball at all 2 months ago? Because Johnny-come-lately bandwagon trash, Mr. Bowman, you don't need to take that. Don Straight, appreciate Don Straight, as always, with a personal sponsorship. Thank you, Don Straight. Lead was up to 32 at this point. I'm reading these posts from earlier tonight. So I'm a few minutes behind. That game's long since been over. Doors Fan 91, Michigan getting Livers to return while Michigan State lost Tillman was big. You're exactly right. That's a big, big difference. And Livers, would Livers have gotten drafted ahead of Tillman? It's possible. I'm not an expert when it comes to NBA draft stock, but yeah, you bring that guy back as a senior and the things he can do, that tilts the balance immeasurably. He says factoring recruiting misses in Washington, Ohio State, and Williams, Purdue have added up. Okay, losing those players. Yeah, Lawyer and Bingham not good enough. Yeah, all those things do add up. But, Michigan State, it's not going all that great right now. But if they had 9 or 10 players, I think it would the recovery and improvement would be expedited. I'm confident that the defense and offensive structure and transition game and all those things will come around like they normally do, including rebounding, which has been hit and miss, because they always come around. The thing I'm not sure about is the quarterbacking. You're talking about a freshman who's not done it. Nothing against him. It's a tough job. I don't know what that's going to look like 5-6 weeks from now. It might be good. I'm not sure. Izzo made that change, so he thinks that long-term it'll look better than it would have with Watts. He would know better than we would. That's an interesting decision. Hogard, handles the ball pretty well, but, made some mistakes in that game against Purdue. Couple of decisions here and there, so that's gotta improve. Mr. Bowman says, JT, I turned it off, could not take watching them. I hate Michigan. Now, Mr. Bowman, you hate Michigan, and you got your Michigan fans giving you crap about it. Let me give you a little word of advice. I know that you like to know what's going on with Michigan, and I do too. I watch Michigan to see what they're doing. And hold on a second here. I don't know if I'll be able to do this or not. Look out. I never watch Michigan live. I always watch them on tape. So if you're interested in what Michigan's doing, you might check to see what the score is or whatever. But zip through it on tape, and it'll save you a lot of aggravation. Now, when Michigan loses, you won't have that euphoric moment of enjoyment when they do lose. But, I don't watch any games live. I watched a couple minutes of NFL football. Not much, but I mean, I can't stand commercials. Now, the Ohio State game last night, I watched it live because it was happening live, right? But I'm constantly rewinding to see what happened on that play and that play. So, but with DVRs these days and Big Ten to go on your laptop and all that, I don't have time for half times and commercials. I want to zip through a game in 35 minutes, 40 minutes, and it'll save you the aggravation. Try it. 36-point lead, wiping the floor with Wisconsin. You're right, terrible math on my part. And yeah, it's tough to watch. This pukes, says Jacob Terry. This pukes. This pukes. I'm going to start saying that. This pukes. All right. Hey, Old Tuck, thanks for calling in. Sorry I talked your ear off. I'm going to get criticism for that. I apologize. I was on a little bit of a roll there, and I think that you were kind of like letting me go with it. So I went with it. I didn't want to stop. I wanted to do the whole sequence in order. Sorry I lost you there, but thanks for calling in. Appreciate it. Brian V says 26, 36 is about to go to 46. First time I've got to see them this year, I'm shocked. That Chandy Brown looks like a player too. Yeah, he comes off the bench, plays defense. He's pretty tough. Jeff Heck says they're up 40 points. Jeez, reminds me of us versus Minnesota. Total massacre. Did I hear that right? A 43-6 run. Yep. Watts has been disappointing to me, says Doors fan. I hear you. And it got Watts, with his struggles, going over to the two guard. And last year when he was two guard, he'd come off bench, provide a little bit of offense here and there. But now it's different, like Old Tuck was talking about. Now it's different with Watts. He's getting more minutes, but it's almost like we're seeing more deficiencies. He's still caught in that point guard mentality a little bit, which isn't a bad direction to go. But he's not really been himself as a wing yet, and he's doing that and taking minutes away from Gabe Brown. I hate to say it like that, but that's the truth. I want to go back and watch that first half again to see what Gabe Brown did in the first half. There must have been some box out that he missed, or some screen that he didn't set, or some play he didn't right. There had to have been a reason why he didn't play in the second half. I don't know. I watched him on the bench, and he was supportive, and he was clapping, but you could just tell that he wasn't mad, but he just was. I don't want to say he was pouting, but he wasn't pouting. But I didn't know what was going on. Did not know. Rob South checking in late says, "What's up, fellas?" Angelo Gross, enthusiast, says, "What do you think the starting five is going to be next year for basketball?" Jeez, man. Why don't you tell me what you think? And he says, "I think Russo will be great if we can protect him." Oh, starting five in the offensive line? Is that what you mean? I'm not sure. Gordon Sonota says, "What do you think of the national letter intent or name, image, and likeness thing?" Name, image, and likeness, that was supposed to go to a vote like this week, NCAA, and it's gotten tabled. So it's looking like there's more of a chance that it will not be in effect next year. I think I'm a little concerned about that. Aaron Mays tried to call also at 9:37. For some reason, my hookup is not hooked up. Some of you guys are calling. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Darn. Anyway, I don't know what's going on with that. I'm sorry, guys. Sorry about that. I got the ringer on. This doesn't happen in rehearsal. Crap. Anyway. Disappointing. Angry. Name, image, and likeness. I don't have a strong opinion about that either way. But you're asking about it. Or yeah, I don't know if you're. I mean, it's gotten to the point where these guys, if they can command some money, it's hard to keep it from them. Especially things like this. If a player has, if he's, these video gamers. Here we go.
Call from.
Yeah, man.
We'll go with
To
it.
accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2.
We'll try it. Hey, who we got on the line
To
here?
accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2.
Thought I did. Dropped him. Mount Clemens caller. There he is. Here's Aaron Mays. Looks like it's working now.
Call from.
Aaron Mays.
To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2.
Aaron Mays, are you there?
Yes, sir.
We've been having some technical difficulties, and I got long-winded a couple times. A lot of the people, the fans,
no.
they're mad at me. So I want you to
Don't
come in and
worry about
save.
it. I enjoyed it.
All right, I want you to come in and save the show a little bit. What's going on, Aaron Mays?
Hey, everything is good. Happy New Year to you, Comp.
Happy New Year. Thanks for calling in.
Yeah. So I was calling in regards to the the Michigan State struggles right now,
Yeah,
and especially in particular the last game.
yeah,
I think two thoughts, maybe three thoughts. Rotation definitely has to shorten up, especially in regards to the big men. He has to do something about that.
yeah.
If they make a mistake, I think he's just going to have to ride with it because they're going to make mistakes. They're kids.
Yep.
And sometimes I think he has a short leash, but he always has.
Yeah.
When it comes down to that.
Yeah.
But the problem is, and I don't know once you go down the chat, that was one of the problems. But the whole issue was that 12-minute stretch that they didn't even make a field goal.
Yeah.
That's the issue.
Yeah.
They're not making knockdown shots. When they open, so like for instance, I'm going to give an example, maybe a bad example, so please forgive me. Like when you see a player from Michigan, like and I'm going back in the day, like Duncan Robinson.
Yeah.
And when they open, you're like, oh no,
Yeah.
that's a knockdown jumper. They knocking them down. Like somebody from Iowa, Bohannon.
Yeah.
When he's wide open, they knocking it down.
Yeah.
Michigan State, it's like maybe
Yeah.
it's gonna be knocked down.
Yeah.
So that's where I see that's two of the things right there. What do you think?
I think you're right. And, I go back too far because I'm still adapting to the way basketball has become because you win games.
I'm the same way.
You win games with some of these shots that are taken. Back in our day, it's like, oh, man, he hurried that shot. That's a bad shot. The guy's going 100 miles an hour, pulls up in the wing, shoots. But
Right.
the good teams are doing that. So I'm still trying to wrap my head around, a guy sprinting and on the run, jacking up a contested three-pointer. Not an open three-pointer, a contested one. And
Yeah. Today's day and age, it's a different beast.
but guys make that shot. So when I see a Langford or a Watts miss that shot, I'm not sure if it's a bad shot or not. I don't know what a bad shot is anymore. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I got to admit, I'm struggling with that. But you're right. I mean, the good teams, when it's open, it's going down. And Michigan State, you don't get that feeling. I mean, early in the year, you kind of did. But, when they're scoring 100 on people. But even then, they were making shots. I remember doing the VCATs with Konendijk after a game, and Michigan State scored 100. And I'm like, they're pouring these points in. It looks good. I guess those are open shots. I mean, I guess those are good shots that are going in. Let me go over. All right, during that I just went through it a minute ago.
Let me tell you one thing right quick, Comp.
Yeah.
So I'll go back in the day. So I'm a graduate from Michigan State back in '88.
Yeah.
So from '84 to '88, I've seen knockdown shooters like Scott. So in my day, Scott Skiles,
Yes.
Steve Smith.
Yeah.
Right. The last knockdown shooter I could say with confidence with is Sean Resford.
Yeah. Well,
So
and Respert,
and I may be missing somebody, but like for sure enough, a knockdown shooter, I would say Respert.
And it's different at different times. Like Winston would, he had his streaks of 45% from three, which is unreal. But yeah, and it was strange because he would have to, he'd have to get his shots in different spots. Like Kirk Mans was a great shooter. We had Steve Smith setting the table for him all the time, but that worked. That works when you got a wingman doing that. That's great. But Respert would let that thing fly in transition, and more so than maybe anybody else for Heathcote, except for Mans. Mans would spot up.
Yep, correct.
But Respert would shoot that thing at full bore. Now, Michigan